Hello, welcome back to All For United WFC. We're in the final, eh? How good does that sound? If anyone watched the preview on Friday, you'll have noticed I sat there and went, I kind of want a tough game here. Maybe not as tight as that. I wanted it close, maybe not as close as that. Ellie, yeah, we got our wish. We wanted the hard game. We certainly got that. And as Charlie reminded me, I did say Williams off the bench, last minute winner. How good would that feel? And I don't think anyone was complaining, certainly not towards the end of that game. I'm just going to come to each of you, ask you kind of initial thoughts off the back of the game, really. And we're going to dive in, obviously into the goals. We'll talk a little bit about that. We are going to do a little bit of a brief on Arsenal, because obviously we played them. That small little game that's happening on Wednesday night as well. We'll talk about that towards the end as well, so get all your comments in and everything else. Charlie, start with yourself then. How are you feeling? We're finally going to Wembley. How good does that sound?
Oh, that's amazing. I'm so excited. I just can't wait. I've watched the highlights back about 50 times, and there's that pitch side filming of Rachel Williams' goal that I just can't stop watching. And then it's one of those ones where, have you ever had a game like, it would have been the same in 1999, where you get a last minute winner and you watch it about 50 times because you want to watch everyone's reaction, every other player's reaction and the crowd and stuff. Absolutely brilliant. It was an emotional roller coaster. It was horrendous at times, absolutely horrendous. But the end of it, the end made it worth it. That feeling was phenomenal. Really pleased, really excited. And if she could do that again on the 14th of May, that'd be very much appreciated by everyone, I'm sure.
It certainly would. As where's the comment just gone? If anyone saw the video that we tweeted out, Barry was a bit more PG than my tweet with the video attached, which I'm sure we'll get Barry's reaction in just a second. But Chess, throw it over to yourself. Welcome back to the channel. I think the last time you were on was actually the Arsenal game we played them at the back end of last year.
Hopefully that's a good sign that you've got me back after a good win. You should get me back after or plan to have me back after the FA Cup to show that it's gonna be a good fixture. No, I'm so happy. It was a tough one. I think there's lots to learn from it. I also don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I'm looking forward to the fixture on Wednesday, or I'm just telling myself that it was a tight tie and it wasn't just a bit of a washover for Manchester United. Look, Brighton are a good side, and also with their new manager Mel Phillips, she's great, and she's done loads of stuff at London City Lionesses, going out to Angel City, and having her coming back into the WSL is a massive win, I think, for Brighton. So obviously, new manager bounces happen. They've happened for lots of teams, unless you're Frank Lampard's Chelsea. And so it's great to see that. But yeah, a nervy one for me watching at home. But very good to see them cinch the win.
And Barry, same for yourself. Your old mate Ian there as well. You were celebrating together that Williams goal. It was quite the scenes, and as you quite rightly said, Rachel bloody Williams, eh? Not a bad way to win it.
I thought it was a terrible day out. What a horrible experience. Of course it was. It was absolutely amazing. It was, as I said to you, once you finally turned the camera off and it wasn't in my face, I blame you entirely. You know full well, Connor Roberts, that Mark Skinner and his gang watched this. You saw it in the dugouts. They had us on the iPad as they were watching, going, no, that's not what Barry said there. And for some stupid reason, to listen to you. I don't know what's going on there. I made it nice and clear. A nice 4-0 win. That's all we wanted. Make it easy. Keep the heart rate normal. But no, we had to go for Rachel bloody Williams. You can't always guarantee. And that's the thing about it, isn't it? We love those feelings. We love that feeling in 99. We love that feeling. The only problem is you can't guarantee that feeling, and that's the scary part of it all. Sometimes you have those sorts of games and it doesn't work out as we season. But this season we seem to be able to do it, and that's just it's just fabulous, really. So yeah, the idea of having Rachel Williams jumping on doing that, absolutely superb. So I'm really proud of the girls for pulling it out of the bag when it matters. And FA Cup semi-final, it was never going to be easy. I think we made them perhaps we would have liked. But yeah, all told, delighted. And the Archers, here we come. And for once, it's not the golden variety of burger heaven.
Sorry, I was on the wrong tab. I know. I'm hoping it's not going to be too bad, but it's going on. Right.
Has it died
to be fair.
again?
It was in and out throughout what you were saying, but we got the gist of
We
what
got
you
the
were
essence
saying.
of it, and that's what's most important. So
Oh, the too long didn't read version. It was pretty good, but we've got to be careful. And it's an FA Cup semi-final. It's difficult.
Sporty, I see your question about the allocation. We'll talk about that towards the end, but I want to talk about the actual game itself. We'll get the negative stuff, if you want to call it that, out of the way. Charlie, come to yourself. But that first half wasn't great, was it? I think I said to Barry around 40 minutes. I don't remember us having a chance. I think the Russo won the effort that was kind of straight down the middle. I don't remember us having another chance aside from that. Obviously, Brighton took the lead. What did you make of that first half in particular?
It was a struggle. I think maybe Garcia was one of the bright sparks who looked like she could perhaps make something happen. I think it's easy to say, a bit lazy for us to say we weren't very good and imply that was the only issue. Brighton came with a clear game plan. They were incredibly hard to break down. They worked really, really hard. And were clearly just playing on the counter attack. Was it what's their player called? Is it Lee, number 9 Lee? A lot of joy with her playing off the last defender. So they had a really clear game plan and they were sticking to it. And I think cup games are very different to league games. League games, there's all sorts of form and other bits and pieces that come into play where you're playing each other as the team top of the table and bottom of the table in a league game. Whereas this is very different. It's knockout football and anything can happen. So it was tough. I think it tells us quite a lot more about our mentality with regards, I know we're to get to second half, but the fact that we came through it and won the game is perhaps something we've said a lot of times this year we wouldn't have done last year. We would have probably folded and capitulated. So it was frustrating. I did believe we would score. I couldn't see us not scoring with those attacking players that we had. And with an honour on the right, you're always going to have chances. So it was frustrating. Probably less frustrating. You know, when we played Everton and we had like 50 shots on goal and you just thought this isn't going to happen. We've had 50 shots and it's just not going to happen. The goalie's having a worldie. There was no sign of it being like that. We just needed to play the ball quicker, move quicker, be a bit more competitive in sort of one-to-one duels. And we were in the second half, which helped.
I know, Ellie, that was probably... Sorry, Charlie. I know, Ellie, that was probably a nice thing Lucia kicked the ball to you, but I'm a little bit worried considering where you were stood. If she's trying to pass to somebody or shoot, I'll be a bit worried as to where that ball ended up. But Barry put a great pun in the chat. If anyone didn't see, obviously Ellie was one of the people waving the flags before the game. So Barry was straight in there with... and flagging before it, Ellie. So that was quite good of you, Barry. There we go. Chester, come to yourself. Obviously, that first half would obviously incorporate the goal in that because I think I turned to Barry when that went in. It looked from where we were stood. I was like, oh, Robinson's got a tap in here because I just assumed that Mary had palmed it into Robinson's path. And then it's like, oh, it's in. Like, it was really bizarre. What did you make of that first half and obviously the strange goal that Brighton scored?
Yeah, it's a strange one. It's a shame for Mary. Really, I think it would be nice if she could have some time to rest. She's played a lot of football recently. Not that she's not capable of doing that. She is, as we know, as we love to say, the best keeper in the world. But it's difficult when world-class keepers are putting in saves time and time again. She made some excellent saves in the second half too. There was some great shots on target and chances for Brighton that she was able to push over. And if they would have scored one of those, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I also think that these mistakes are going to happen at some point. It's the same. It's the same as Millie Turner's mistake for the second goal. We don't want them to, and I think it's really poor that they are. But if they were to happen you'd rather them happen in a fixture like this, even if it's knockout football, than like Arsenal midweek. I think the one thing that I would be worried about though is teams have kind of cracked the way that Manchester United attacks. Very. They know that we come from wide channels, especially with shutting down Hannah Blundell and also Onabagie. And when players are able to keep those players quiet, when you force them out and force them to be able to pass, you're shaking your head, Connor.
It's not you. It's a comment I've seen. You carry on. Sorry.
No, don't worry. I think that's the only thing that's going to be worrying for future, because we were able to kind of overcome that in this fixture. But you worry that midweek and also against Chelsea coming up, and also Manchester City, which are coming up in mid-May, that would be kind of the key issue there. It's about adaptability, and you want to see them kind of do something new.
I think it's a fair thing. It's definitely something we'll get into. Kaz has mentioned the midfield. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. I'll put the player of the match poll in the chat in just a second as well. But Barry, obviously, we were quite animated in that first half. We didn't feel it was it wasn't going well. I think I turned to you and said, "Thank God these aren't as good as Chelsea or Arsenal, so on, because we could have been 2 or 3 down going into our time." I felt with some of the chances Brighton had, but it wasn't. It wasn't all over at half-time, was it? How do you kind of feel going into half-time?
Not at all. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but I mean, Charlie talks about looking at the Rachel Williams goal time and time again. I found the goal that I was looking at the most was the Marriott's own goal, because I just could not work out what was going on. Even now, I still struggle. I feel like she's done a better job being able to put that into her own net than she would have done if she'd have cleared it, because I just don't know how it's happened. It's like there's some sort of magic that's occurred there. Emma Watson's got here early, got her wand out, and is making it do stuff it shouldn't do. It looks like she's obviously gone to clear the ball, just misjudged the flight of it, and has obviously caught it wrong, and that's how it deflected in. And let's be brutally honest, if that did not go in, going in at 0-0, we wouldn't really have been complaining. We'd have expected that from Brighton. They were always going to be tough to attack against first half. They weren't going to roll over like they have done in other games. The new manager bounce, we've spoken about that as well. So it was always going to be tricky. It was never going to be just a simple, straight up 4-0 in the first half. I mean, I was hoping we'd have got the 4 in the second half, but wasn't expecting it necessarily in the first. We did need the early goal. We didn't get it. We gave it to them instead. It's just a shame, really. But no, at no point was I sitting there thinking we're going out. My biggest frustration would have been if obviously Brighton had come out second half, managed to defend really well against us and frustrated us. But that didn't happen because, as Charlie said, we've got the Honour Express on the right-hand side, Super Leah Goulton. She never gives the ball away, although she did this time because they got possession from the halfway line. And that's fine because you can have the possession back for a centre kick, can't you? We love that. Love it a lot. So, no, I wasn't worried at all.
Some interesting points, man. I mean, Gabrielle's kind of almost backing up what Chess you just mentioned there about obviously a lot of our attacks do come from the wide areas, particularly the fullbacks. Charlie, staying with this kind of conversation a little bit, is there any concern, like Chess mentioned, that teams maybe if they know that if they stop our fullbacks that we don't seem to create that many? Because as you said earlier, this wasn't like the Everton game. It's not like I had loads of chances and it just wasn't going in. Like I said, I barely remember a chance. Even in the second half, we didn't have loads. We were much better in the second half, but we weren't exactly absolutely dominating them and everything else. Is that a little bit of a concern? Or, again, we scored 3 goals, so it can't have been all that bad.
It being in the stand, being there, and obviously sometimes things look very different being there to watching at home or being in just a different place in the stand. It can look very different. But it just felt, and it's felt like this occasionally at times this season, if we're splitting hairs, is there's times we just need to be a little bit braver at certain points. So it's really easy for the wide attackers from an opposition team to push your fullbacks back if your fullbacks don't really look like they're willing to sort of take on the challenge and take a player on. Now, we've got 2 fullbacks who are brilliant at that. Really, really good, Hannah and Donna. And at times it just felt like, and it might have been an instruction or a decision they'd made where it felt like they could take a player on and they just weren't, because Honour is world class. If you look at the Goulton goal, she skips past 2 or 3 Brighton players because they don't know what to do with her. And it felt like they probably could have done a bit more of that in the first half. But again, it might have been an active decision that they just wanted to ease into it just to see how Brighton were going to play it out. Bigger thing for me is I was thinking about it last night. We've not conceded that many goals really this season. And I didn't have time to look into it today because I'm at work and you have to do work at work and not just continue watching football videos. But obviously any goal you concede, something hasn't gone right. Something must have gone wrong somewhere or something brilliant's happened from the opposition. But I wonder how many of the goals we've conceded this year have come from absolute clangers from our players. Like, do you know what I mean? Like howlers. And I feel like it's been a few proportionally. We've not scored that many goals, so it wouldn't take many for it proportionally to feel like a lot. But I think the goals we've conceded have been through individual lapses in concentration, or in that really, really high pressure moment, like Brighton's second goal, not doing the thing that probably on any other day you would have done, which is just get rid of that ball properly and boot it out. So again, like I said, we've had a brilliant season, but looking at maybe sort of drilling into it a little deeper, it'd be interesting to go away and look at, if you look back at the goals we've conceded, how many of them have been proper individual error, like they were yesterday. Was it yesterday? It was Saturday, wasn't it?
You got me thinking now, because I was thinking the Lewis goal, again, that wasn't it. The Leicester goal against Leicester springs to mind again. That was a poor playing out from the back. The goal against Chelsea completely split us apart. Poor defending. Arsenal, that was a deflection.
Well.
It's like moments. We're not outplayed by teams.
Yeah. I think Arsenal's one of the Arsenal goals was very unlucky.
It was a deflection, wasn't it?
Yeah, the deflection.
It was a deflection.
Not all of them, but it sometimes feels like more often than not we're going, oh, why did that happen? Like, it's sometimes you can't do anything about it. There's something brilliant happens, brilliant attacking play, phenomenal ball into the box. But it's just, those little lapses in concentration. And we've talked about the likes of when you're playing Chelsea and Arsenal. You need to minimise that. You need to massively minimise it, because they just need one chance. Like poor Villa happened yesterday, just one chance.
Yeah.
Chelsea need, and they won that game, Chelsea, when they probably, based on overall performance, didn't deserve to. But there was one opportunity and she took it. Don't know.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Yeah, that's the goal I was referring to. The one, Marnham literally just walked from their own 25 yards all the way up and then deflected.
Zellum did that for us against Brighton. Like that third goal, she ran 30, 40 yards. It was a bit like Stanway's goal. I thought Zellum was going to take an absolute pot shot back against Stanway against Spain, which didn't, thank goodness. Yeah. Slipped it through to Rachel.
Well, we're going to get to the second one in a minute, but yeah, I thought the second one, I thought she's never going to pass this. Like, it was just like, everyone was like, come on. But we'll get to that in a second. Barry, I'll come to you then. Obviously, we started the second half much better. Literally within 50 seconds, I think it was on the clock. It's Honor again on that right-hand side. It's just normal Honor, isn't it, really? On that right-hand side, puts it on a plate. And Galton, again, I think I turned to you and said, at the time, I'm pretty sure she was level with Russo, obviously, until Russo had scored. She's, again, big goals, big moments for Galton.
We've spoken all season about how our goals have come from lots of positions. They've obviously not just come from one. We're not like Man City, whether that be men or women. We don't just need one goal scorer. We've got it all the way throughout, because we understand what it is to be a team, not just a one-trick pony. So I'm not too fussed about where the goals come from. At the end of the day, as long as the ball goes in the net, that's all we really want. It's interesting because you say typical Honor, but it wasn't typical on her first half. I think our attacking threat was nullified down both wings, and not just for the fullbacks. You were talking about Hannah and Honor. I don't think that Lucia had that much of an impact in the first half, really, which was interesting, because I remember turning and saying to somebody, it could have been you, how we do look like what we've got are impact players. Whether you be Nikita Paris, whether you be Martha Thomas, whether you be Lucia Garcia, you're more likely to have an impact coming off the bench than you seem to have when you start the match. And I think that was the tricky part for us during that entire game, if I'm brutally honest. I think that when that goal finally came and Honor got herself up there, I mean, that was quite funny, because I turned around to Matt and said, you should pass that. She should have passed that a little bit quicker. And then she just runs past the player, passes it across to Galton and goes in. So, see, told you. I definitely should have given that quicker. I thought Honor was superb second half. The whole team lifted their performance as they needed to, and fought the good fight on that pitch. But Galton's been superb. It was interesting that she was the most central player, though, on that occasion. Really interesting to see how, again, she's supposed to be wide left or coming in towards the back post. You have to question where Russo was. And that's not to put a negative on it, but it's just she's the one who should be in that position. If you've got a true number 9, the true person that's going to be the goal poacher, that's going to get you the sort of goals that Bunny Shaw's been getting for City, then you probably are going to need Leslie Russo to be in those positions more often than not. And I don't know if that's something that can be taught to her. Leah Galton at the moment seems to be doing that. And so I wonder if at any point there would be a shout for Leah Galton to be.
I think
put in.
sorry to jump in. I just want to kind of play.
You're not happy with me.
No, it's not that I'm not happy with you. This was something that I saw in the United Chelsea game down at Kings Meadow, is that Russo was taking much more of a position down the left side of the pitch, and I actually think they're probably rotating. I think it's something that they're doing to like during the game. A formation change would be a bit too heavy to say that, but like realistically, that the players are moving around the pitch to give themselves like more of an opportunity to do something new, as kind of instead of just sticking Russo on the number 9 on the penalty spot, pinging balls in and open for the best. Really, I don't necessarily think that's. I don't know if it's working, because I do think that is what Russo is best at, especially. And this isn't a wider criticism of her, but I think you kind of saw it in these last few England games as well. She doesn't love running throughout the fixture, and so she's very, very good at being a poacher and putting balls in the back of the net. So if they're trying to do something a little bit different, maybe it's just not, and that's why you're seeing her why you're seeing Golson in more of a central role, and why you're not seeing her in that thing too. That's probably what that is. Maybe trying something a bit different. Doesn't necessarily mean it's working, but it could be trying something new.
You absolutely could be right, and if that's the case, then so be it. But I think if you're Leslie Russo, it's not working for her game. It's clearly working for Galton, because she's getting the goals more so than she normally would. We're not necessarily getting a huge number of goals from the right-hand side at the moment. So, yeah, if that is a tactic, then you know you're watching, Mark. Possibly something you need to work on, Sunshine, because not convinced that your front line is doing everything that it could do if it was being used to its potential, I think is how I feel about that. But I was delighted. And what we noticed, Charlie, she never fell over. Stayed on.
Oh my God, she didn't she?
But someone did. Who did fall over?
You,
Russo
off your
fell
chair
over.
because you were cheering so much.
Russo fell over. I don't know if you've noticed how often Leah Galton falls over when she scores. And we're convinced that she must watch this show, because we talked about it on a show, and then literally the next day she posted a picture of herself on Instagram about falling on her ass when she shoots.
Do you think they're doing like a watch along of this at Carrington? Yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning over breakfast. They
do.
just put on All for United, and they get our take, and then and then Mark goes, right, guys, I've worked out what we're doing in training this week, and we're going to go forward from there. I think that's exactly what's happening.
This is it.
When they're all sunning themselves out, you know, the lot that went away in the international break, they just had it on every single day. It's like,
they had us on the Tuesday as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Katie's definitely done that. Absolutely. Why wouldn't you? And look, it's working. Don't change a good thing.
I was going to say, Mike, they watch and make notes. Maybe. Just on that, actually, before I forget, I was supposed to say this at the start, but I completely forgot. I slipped my mind. The person who came up to myself and Charlie outside LSV, I'm not going to obviously say anything of the conversation or anything else, gave us nice compliments about the channel and about seeing us online and all those kinds of things. If you can drop us a DM on Twitter, we would actually really like to know who you are, because obviously that was a nice interaction to have, and obviously appreciate everyone that's commenting tonight and everything else moving forward, and the kind words that we got on Saturday in person, and a couple of messages we've had over the weekend. So that was great to see as well. So if that was you that came up to myself and Charlie outside LSV on Saturday, either drop a comment, because you did say you watch every show. So either drop a comment or drop us a message on Twitter, just so we know who you are for future reference. Moving on then, so the second goal, Russo. Just before I forget, actually, player of the match poll is in the chat, so you're 4 to vote for. I can't remember who I put as the fourth name, actually. It's who did I put? Williams.
Did you not put the crowd?
No.
I didn't. No, I didn't.
Why do I even come on, Connor? You're throwing my suggestions back in my face at me. What can you say?
Oh, he does this all the time. Imagine what it's like working with him, Chess.
So who have we gone for there? Yeah, so Williams, Honor, Zellum, and I think I put Russo as the fourth. I can't actually remember. It was between Russo or Garcia, I think.
Anytime she hits the top of the net when scoring a goal, she kind of deserves it. So
it was as well. It was the roof of the net. Incredible.
I think about the Tottenham one a few years ago, actually quite regularly.
Thing of beauty.
That was my goal of the season, I think.
I just see that moment where Ashley Neville just grasps the floor because that's all she can hold on to.
But there, well, leads us in nicely. Talk to us about the Russo goal. Whoever wants to jump in on that one. Obviously, it came at a decent time. At the time, we all thought we'd won it. At that point, I thought, there we go, Russo's got the winning goal. Like I said a bit earlier, Zellum, I thought delayed the pat, but obviously it worked out in the end. But I think we were all shouting like, pass, Katie, pat, like, come on. It just seemed to go on forever. But Charlie, another goal for Russo, and to be fair, cracking finish into the roof than that.
Oh yeah, and ever so important. Yeah, it was good. I've tried to. There's not enough angles to watch back and see if Zellum was holding off because she was wanting Russo to hold her run, because we know what the offside calls can be like. Just if you see a red shirt, it's offside, no matter where it is on the pitch. That's what it feels like. But yeah, it was really good. Nicely weighted pass. I think if it had been any harder, probably the goalkeeper would have come and collected it. Who I only really randomly realised is the goalkeeper who was at Arsenal on the bench and then went to PSG.
Yeah, and now she's back. And this is the thing. Sorry to jump in there, but like, she is not a bad goalkeeper. And so when like it was a bit of a random move because she was only there for like 3 or 4 months in PSG. But like coming into this fixture, that's also another thing to know. Like, it's not bad at the back. Obviously, it's been a couple of dodgy games, but she can pull out performances. Sorry, carry on. Sorry to jump in.
So she was only at PSG to take for that rocket of Katie Zellum's to go past in pre-season, if I remember correctly. She was in net for that. But yeah, really good goal, really well timed, and typical of Russo, who wasn't moving very quickly, but put so much power and pace on the ball, almost from like wasn't far off being just from a standing position. I think any goal of hers, whether ball stationary or it's a header, she put so much power on it, and a placement was perfect, because if you're hitting it into the roof of the net, the goalkeeper's got no chance really. And I think even though it's getting better, probably increasingly in the women's game, if you're hitting it into the roof of the net, it's going to take one heck of a reaction from a female goalkeeper to get there and be able to keep it out. So it was absolutely incredible. I loved her reaction as well. There's a still of Russo where she's just on the floor like, like obviously really, really big for her. And it was nice to see that sort of reaction for her, because I think there's been a little bit of worry that with the whole contract thing, where is her head? And I think that reaction showed that she's still in it. She's still in it with Man United, even if it doesn't go past this season. So really good, really well taken goal. Another assist for Zellum, just quietly going about her business like normal. But yeah, and it got us singing the Scarlet Ribbon song really jovially for all of about 45 seconds.
The celebration reminded me of the one actually against City when we should have beaten them at home.
When we went 2-1 up.
2-1 up, yeah. That was one of her comeback games when she'd come off the bench. We were, or I can't remember when she started, but yeah, that celebration, it reminded me. I think actually that's the picture that's in the background that you can't see at the moment because there's 4 of us on screen. I'm pretty sure it's that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you mentioned, Chess, obviously that goal, and as Charlie said, it's another Zellum assist just goes under the radar. Obviously, we're talking about the third goal as well. She obviously got the assist there, but it's just stat. Some people call it stat padding, if you want to call it that. It's up to you. But what do you make of the goal, Chess? And also what Charlie said on Russo about, kind of last few weeks or so, or months really, some fans have been saying, is her head fully in it? Obviously with the contract talks and everything else that's around, obviously we know what happened in January. What have you kind of made of her, particularly obviously on Saturday?
Yeah, put a ball in the back of the net. Great. That's what your job is as a number 9. Absolutely fantastic to see. I don't think it was next level stuff, but it didn't need to be. It was a lovely goal when she scored it, and she did the job. I think that's kind of what there is to be said there. On a wider thing, she does perform for Manchester United. She's there when you need her to be. She scored some really crucial goals for us this season. The one that obviously springs to mind is that winner against Arsenal. But I think surrounding her contract and also I'm glad that she stayed in January. I don't think it would have been the right idea for her to leave, even if it would have been for what was it, stipulation of about £250,000. That was looking at it from Arsenal. Realistically, what's the club just been valued for? 7 billion. David De Gea gets paid that a week. It doesn't matter. Like, the money doesn't matter. And call me cynical, because yes, I do also think that we should move to obviously the women's game being completely self-sufficient, or like the club being able to be a little bit more self-sufficient in how they kind of move and invest. But I don't think that money is particularly necessary. So I think it's more of a benefit for her to stay to the end of the season. But this is my thought across the board for all players. no player is bigger than the team that they play for. Whether she stays, brilliant, and she signs a new contract, that would be fantastic. Whether she goes somewhere else and is great somewhere else, then we will remember her time in a Manchester United shirt as a happy thing, and we're glad that she was there while she was there. But I am always of the opinion of no player is bigger than the team, and we'll just have to recruit more. Look at Emma Watson, the 17-year-old coming through in Scotland, scoring 2 goals. She was excellent. She's 17 years old. Manchester United are known for purchasing and swooping up young, bright, exciting talent. It comes from our academy. It comes from the players that we recruit. That was on a Badger a couple of years ago, like literally 2 years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago. She was fantastic, and that's what we do. Whether we package them up and other people take them on, or we just let them go on with their career, it doesn't matter. But we want to remember their time here at Manchester United with happiness. I'm going to get off my soapbox now.
I was going to say, somebody clip that. Somebody clip that and get that on Twitter.
Someone clip that up and put some really like emotional music over it. You know, like Nimrod. Put Nimrod in the background of it, and that will just be my crowning glory for this season. And then I'm never letting a City press box ever again to ask Gareth Taylor a question because I've pulled that out. Whatever. It'll be worth it. But yeah.
So you're right. No one's bigger than the club, but let's not forget Yip Yap Stan was bigger than your stand. Never forget that. He was quite big.
Yeah.
Go on, Barry. Talk to us about that goal, the Russo one.
Well, I thought she'd fluffed it up. As she was sliding, I was like, brilliant ball from Zellum. And then I saw the net ripple. So that was twice I was wrong in one game. I'm better off watching it on the telly, Connor, because my eyesight's failing. I'm 41 years old and I'm turning into Mr. Magoo. I can't see things like I used to, which is odd because I actually thought you were John Commode when you first turned up. So there we go. Easy mistake to make, I would imagine.
I don't know about that.
I don't know why. I thought she was actually Leslie Russo, so that was even more weird. But no, I thought it was a superb goal when she got through. Katie Zellum was the one for me because there was a lot of delaying of passes, I think, throughout the first half. We weren't where we should have been in terms of finding the right pass and doing the right thing. And the second half, they were just more at it. And it was a perfect ball through. Always had faith that she'd put it through eventually. It was just a bit of a painful wait. And then when it got through, happy days. But yeah, I did think she'd absolutely skied it. Thought it was going to go. And then there it was, top corner. I agree with pretty much everything Chess has just gone on to say, really. No one is bigger than the club. That will always be the case and should always be the case. And I think what I was most pleased about with that goal is Leslie doing the number 9's job. Jess said it herself. That's what you want your number 9 to do. And that is the role of the number 9. Be the focal point. Be the one that's going to break that offside trap. Be the one that gets there one-on-one with the goalkeeper. Be the one that's around that 6-yard box to head the ball in like she did against Arsenal. That's her job. She is going to be so ineffective going out on the left-hand side. And that might be good for Leah Galton to come in. If Leah's come in, I see Leslie going out. That's fine if that's the way they want to do it. But I think Leslie Russo's got more chance of scoring you goals if you get her inside that penalty area. And we've seen it there. Not just there dropping back to go and win the ball if she feels like we're not getting enough on. I'm not a fan. No, you probably have never had a beard, John. What can I say? I wasn't touching your face, was I, sir? How was I to tell? I couldn't see, remember? Mr. Magoo, gone. The scary thing about that is I was driving. Perhaps it was me that hit Mannion, I don't know.
I was going to say, Suze, if you're in the comments, I hope Barry was a decent driver because I know he was the kind of taxi service on Saturday. I hope Barry gave you a delightful ride home, and I'm hoping Andrew would give me glowing reviews as well on for Saturday. But there we are. Obviously, we've got to talk about
smash him. That's what he said.
Yeah, it was. It was a bit of a bumpy ride at times, but we got through it. It was fine. Going on to obviously Brighton's second goal, we've got to talk about that. I think obviously we know who's, I guess, at fault, if you want to call it that. To be fair, other people might look at it differently. But Charlie, was that another kind of example of potentially Millie Turner not being too great with that? That ball over the top seems to be a struggle. Obviously, we saw it against Chelsea. They got in quite a few times at Kingsmeadow with that exact type of ball. But what did you make of that set? Because it was so quick. I think it was about 4 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes between the Russo goal and them equalising. And it was like, how has that just happened?
So there's a couple of things for me. That was kind of there was build up to that happening. So that was kind of what Brighton were doing anyway. And then when Danielle Carter was coming on, I'm not going to lie, it did give me a little bit of, as Eric would say, squidgy bum time, because she's put us to the sword before. She did that in Casey's last season when we were top of the league on Christmas, and she came and just absolutely made a mess of our defensive line. I think people forget how good Danielle Carter is. And just because she's been around a long time, I think there's some players who were played women's football 15 years ago, and you kind of look at them and you think, yeah, you look like a player that started playing elite women's football 15 years ago. She doesn't look like that. She looks like she's just come through the ranks, and she's so good and she's so powerful, and she's got a turn of pace a bit like Rachel for someone who's an older player. And watching it at our angle, so we were just behind the dugout, and we saw it go over, and everyone's just going, kick it out, just kick it out, just kick it out. And you couldn't tell if Mary was maybe close enough to come and get it. I think she probably wasn't. And then I don't know what happened. It was just calamitous. And you just saw Millie go like this. And you thought, oh no. And it was like, just the good thing was the crowd kept it up. I don't know if you noticed, Ches, you said the crowd should have been the fourth one for player of the match. But the crowd were brilliant. And I mean, from all stands that had people in, just kept going. But it was just a bit calamitous, really.
I mean, Dan Carter has won the FA Cup,
Yes.
4 times, is it?
Yeah.
She's won the FA Cup quite a few times.
I wonder if Brighton would have a few more points on the board if she'd been playing more minutes.
Yeah. And also just like she's a decisive player. It was a poor mistake at the back. Also, I bet Mary Earps, bless her, was having flashbacks to the Sam Kerr goal in the Australia game. Because apart from the conditions being a bit better at Lee Sports Village, which is saying something for the weather up in Manchester, which kind of shows how bad it was down in Brentford, it was almost exactly the same thing. Sorry,
Ches, did you just see Barry's glass? I felt like you reacted to it like I did. Barry, it looks like you're a borrower holding a normal sized glass.
Very big glass or very small man. Never known. Oh God, I didn't mean it like that. I was about to say, for people watching, this is when I just get booted out. Blocked by the Twitter account, and I just can never talk to any of you ever again. Sorry, I said my soapbox thing about Russo. Now it's time to go. But yeah.
Wow.
What were we talking about? Brighton's second goal.
Dan Carter. Brighton's
That was
second
it.
goal. Bad mistake by Millie Turner. Hopefully she doesn't do that again for the rest of the season. Finn.
Quick one. There's a couple of comments there about Millie Bright. When we were at Kings Meadow, the game a few weeks ago, she booted the ball out of the ground about 7 times. And I turned to someone and said, I bet she was fun at school, always kicking the ball over the fence. But actually, quite right. That's kind of what you wanted Millie Turner to do, is just boot it, even if it goes like 5 miles away. Just get rid of it.
It's also a bit more difficult to kick it out of Lee because it's like an actual stadium.
Yes,
but that's just
yeah. Millie Bright, are you kidding? We can all kick it out of Kings Meadow.
Yeah,
Give
especially
it.
if you park on Kings Meadow as well. If you can actually get on there, as Shane's saying, you don't want that going through your windscreen or something, do you? Is there anything else? Has anyone got Chess and Barry anything to add on the Brighton goal? Obviously, it was I
just wondered about the communication. There must have been some sort of communication. I mean, the irony was that we've been on this channel saying how there was perfect communication now between the defence and Mary, and how they were all doing so much better, not conceding silly goals. And you can take the first one out. That can happen to anyone. That was a freak one. But that one just took me back to Everton. Walton Hall Park. Thor and Mary didn't quite have the right conversation.
Gross.
It sounded like Mary had shouted. Thor decided to put it through her legs.
That was horrible.
And we all just sat there and went, how has this happened? What's gone on? And it just reminded me of that. You know, we're all sitting there going, surely this is going to get cleared away, or surely Mary's going to come in and just boot her out of the way with the ball. And, you know, we're going to see Millie Turner end up in row Z along with a football. And the next thing we knew, it was in the back of the net. I couldn't quite believe what had happened. I was lucky to see it, to be honest with you. If I hadn't been stood on the chair, I probably wouldn't have seen it. But no, it was. I wish I hadn't, to be honest with you. It wasn't fun, was it?
It was one of those ones where I also looked at the linesman and I was like, please put your flag up for something, please, anything, doesn't matter what it is, a dead pigeon in the middle of I don't care. Put your flag up because this is
Horrid.
Horrid. But let's talk about Rachel. Come on, guys. That's what we're all here for.
Well, she didn't have anything to do with a second goal. Perhaps she'd have been there. It would have been booted out. I'll tell you that. That would have been, forget Rose Z, that would have been the thing that hit Mannion's car. Straight boom, on, like a rocket.
Do you know what I love the most about Rachel Williams? This is the most. When she comes on the pitch, you know the first two things that she's going to do is 1, win a corner, and 2, smash through some unsuspecting defender. It's like a checklist, and then the third one is score a goal.
Score the winning goal for the game.
Well,
Yeah, I bet anyone who
perfect.
complained about her when she was first signed is biting their tongue now, because oh my goodness, I think I am paraphrasing here because I went to try and find the direct quote, but I think this was in an interview after the Reading game, and that she was asked, there was a lot of criticism about your signing when you were signed. What do you have to say to it now, especially after a goal you scored like that? And she said, when Mark talked to me about being signed for Manchester United, he said that I would sit on the bench and then I would come on and I would score goals that would win games. And what has she done? She sat on the bench, she's come on, she scored goals that win games. I know she's older, I know she especially for a striker, but she's showing the kind of, we talk a lot about levels of class and maturity, and the fact that a lot of the Manchester United players, because they've either played at United since its inception or they've been brought in later as young talent, don't have a lot of experience with like winning trophies. And Rachel Williams has maturity in the game because she's been doing it for a long time, and so I think that kind of just showed again. Oh, I was so happy when I got that. I got so stressed after the goal. I'm going to be completely honest and vulnerable with everyone who's watching the stream right now. I got so stressed after the first lot of goals that I went and walked my dog for the rest of the game, and so I only had the Twitter notifications coming through from about when Garcia went off. And so, oh my goodness, when that one came through in the 89th minute, I was jumping around down by where the Chelsea pensioners are, and people were looking at me very funny in the street, but it was definitely worth it.
It's a couldn't stop coughing. Yeah, it's certainly what I mean.
It's almost like people should just stop and watch a player play for the team when the manager's brought him, rather than get themselves all bent out of shape, thinking that people have a reason.
I've always said that you can, if you don't agree with it, there's plenty of signings that I've not agreed with, but I judge them on what they do in a United shirt. I don't really care what they've done at other clubs, and she's doing it at United. I think how many goals is she on? 6 or 7, isn't it? I think we were trying to work out.
6, I think we
The
said.
minutes to goal.
The goals she's scoring are just important goals. You think in one in particular, we don't win that game. But what you said at the start, Charlie, it is. I think I said to you after the game, within 30 seconds, Williams had come on, barged somebody over, won the ball straight down the line. I was like, we've got a winger on our hands here. She's like running down the line, put a cross in. I thought this is what we needed. And I thought Thomas, to be fair, as well, was quite good at that. But
do you know what? Sorry, just quickly. I love. In the last few games where she's been the player that's been interviewed, I've noticed, obviously because she's scored, she's always asked, when you're on the bench and you're watching, what were you feeling like? And she's always just said something like, everyone was getting too tense. Everyone was getting a bit emotional. So just needs to go on there and calm down, take a few shots because no one's having a shot. She's just dead like, everyone just needs to chill out. Everyone just needs to calm down. Although she did say, if you watched her interview after this one, she did say for the first time she was nervous. When Zelen played that ball, she did feel a little bit of nerves. But I turned to the people next to me and I said, it's got to that point now where when we have a player in that sort of position and we need them to absolutely score, I always want it to be her. That's who I want the ball to fall to every single time. I want it to fall to her. And you see the other players' reactions to her as well.
You know how many minutes she's played. You were talking about the minutes to goal ratio. I
I don't know to the exact minute, but you look at the last few. So 13, 31, 11, 5, 19, 12, 18, 8, 14, 7, 12. Like it's never any more than 20 minutes.
Let's
in
say my
most of the
mental
time she
maths
comes
isn't
on.
that good to be able
I know.
to
I
work that out.
wasn't expecting
Not
anyone
that
to work
many.
that out. But she is on 6 goals, and like I said, when you look at that, she's not playing more than 20 minutes per game when she's coming on. You know, if anything, it's less than 10 or 15 for the most part, apart from Brighton away, when she had obviously half an hour and scored. So it must be ridiculous.
Best quote I saw, I think we saw it in the programme, but Jamie Spencer, he said he'd done that little interview with, it was Hannah Blundell, wasn't it, who we did it with? And I'm getting mixed up at the minute because Maya Letitia was saying how much she loved Rachel Williams as well, and I was trying to work out which one was which. Again, Mr. Magoo, see, can't tell the difference. But what I thought was really good was that they were talking about how they do this Dress Up Friday thing or this Fun Friday. And they literally just said, all Rachel Williams does, don't know what it is, she does it to win. It's 100% for everything. It's always, she doesn't do 99%. She doesn't do calling in days off. It's literally just 100% at everything, every single time. And this is what we're seeing from her. She's absolutely showing the youngsters in this club the way to go forward of how to be a professional. Her work ethic is immense. The way that she deals with, you know, deranged fans that might want a picture by her car when she's got security with her has been unbelievably good. You know, she's just excellent. And before anybody gets at it at me, I'm talking about Charlie there, all right?
She wasn't deranged.
All fans. It was an inside dig, right?
Right. Come on, let's stop this. So she was getting into a Peugeot 406. I don't know what it was. I wasn't looking closely. And I just popped over. I thought, why not? There's no one else around. So I went, Rachel, mate, do you fancy a photo? And she just looked a bit startled, didn't she? And then a big burly fella came over and I thought, mate, you don't need to be here. She could crack my skull like Captain Crush for doing that. Like, you don't worry about it. No. Do you know what I noticed as well? Something else we were talking about, obviously, when we first signed her, like me included, was a bit like she's not going to be the player to win us the league, although ironically she might end up being, which is bizarre, or lead the line in the Champions League. But obviously, you can watch it now and you're like, that's not what she was bought for. Obviously, she wasn't bought in to be Russo. But you feel it in the crowd. Like the first couple of times she came on, like right at the start of the season, it was a bit like, oh, it's nice that she's getting some minutes, isn't it? Whereas now, when she takes her vest off, everyone's like, Rachel's coming on. Rachel's coming on. It's gonna be all right. Rachel's coming on.
We're winning the game. We're winning the game. She's scoring a screamer. We're winning the game.
But again, that, you know, a bit like Tooney and Russo at the Euros, it kind of becomes a thing. Oh, she's gonna come on and she's gonna score a goal now. Like it just happens, and it must be a little bit like that for the opposition as well. And she's quick. She's quick as well. She's got a yard of pace. But yeah, really good.
And you know what I love about all of this?
Yeah.
What I love genuinely about all of this is the fact that she has said in an interview with the BBC that when she finishes being a footballer, she's going back to plastering because she just loves it. And this is what I mean. It's like as soon as she's finished, she's not interested in doing anything else. That's it. Just off, going to be a plasterer again. Crack on. Love me job. It's so down to earth. Just unbelievable. What a player. I would go so far as to say a legend already. And she's only played.
I was going to say that there was a question from Sarah there. Is Williams becoming one of our most important players in the team? I would say she's in the top 5 for sure.
We win the WSL and the FA Cup, lob a statue of her up outside Old Trafford. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Deb was
I'm not
saying that.
anything.
Our friend was saying that as well, exactly. But she's important in the sense that we talked a lot about when we were building up to this season. What we were missing were players that could come off the bench and make a difference. Now that's her role. Her role is to be a bench player, like Garcia. Apart from this game, their role has been they come off the bench and they impact the game, and they've both done that. Rachel particularly really, really well. So if you talk about players coming in and fulfilling their role, for me, she's top of the list for players that are fulfilling the role that they've been given.
I would say so, and it's what we've been saying on this channel pretty much all season. You know, that players don't have to start to make an impact in this team. Garcia obviously started the first 60 minutes, which fans have been crying out for it starting, to be fair, including us. She came on, and as Gabriella's put there, surprised by Thomas, because probably Garcia ran that side ragged. Then Thomas then comes on, and she can then run at a tie in defence, and that's the kind of options you've got. If it was the other way around, Thomas probably would have done the same. Garcia comes on, and Garcia makes an impact. It's the kind of options that we've got, particularly on that. Obviously, that right-hand side is more interchangeable because of the amount of players that we've got that can play there. But it's not a bad thing we play. Yeah, that's a whole other debate that we don't need to go into right now. Shane's talking about, it shows her experience. She's probably the calmest person in the ground. I thought, That's what I mean. Her celebration wasn't like really out there, was it? It was just like, yeah, I scored the winner. What about it? It was quite reserved. I think Tooney was the one that completely lost her head when that goal went in. But there we are. Right, we're at 50 minutes in, so we're going to have to come to the player of the match because we are going to talk about Arsenal a little bit before we wrap this one up. Let's have a look at the poll. In fact, I'll come to each of you. I'll leave the poll up for about 2 more minutes. I'll come to each of you and who you voted for before I end the poll. Charlie, who do you go for?
Rachel Williams. It was really close between her and Zella, but everyone was sort of bobbing, middling, weren't they? Everyone was okay, and she came on and she just won that game for us on her own. Brilliant, Rachel for me. Short and sweet.
Barry?
I was just voting. I voted for Rachel Williams.
That's fair enough.
How can you not? How can you not?
Jesse, you going to make
I
it?
mean, I'm about to not. Because
well, tell us how can you not?
Apart from the fans, who were obviously the player of the match, especially the fourth one. No, I was going to say Zellum, just because realistically, 2 assists, that'll do it. Can't score a goal without an assist, unless you're all running from the halfway line. Do quite enjoy those when they do them.
Or taking a penalty.
Yeah, okay, yeah, true. But she does also do those, so like swings and roundabouts, isn't it?
Very true.
Indeed.
Well, there were 2 very good assists as well, to be fair. You know, the one poach through the middle and that one going for the right-hand side for Rachel as well. So they were very, very good assists.
Is this the first player of the match poll that Honor's been in and hasn't won?
I think no. I think she's been in one before, and I think it might have been Old Trafford, and I think Garcia won it. I think on that one. I think. But yeah, looking at the votes, so who we got? So yeah, Russo on 6, Honor on 18, Kate Sellum on 30, Williams on 44. So yeah, I think if you're going to score a winner to send your team to Wembley for the first time in an FA Cup final, I think you're probably going to get it, no matter how long you're on the pitch for, because that is the most memorable, and gave us a famous clip that we can now use of Barry saying Rachel Bloody Williams, which we shall sure use for the rest of the season every time she scores.
Which you just paraphrased beautifully, I must say, Connor.
Yeah, I didn't go quite as how you said it, but there we are. Right, let's move on to Arsenal a little bit. Kind of talk, obviously, that small game that's just round the corner. The big games keep on coming. Charlie, how do we approach this one then? Because we know Arsenal have got a hell of a lot of injuries. McCabe's also out.
Don't say that.
McCabe's also out. I'm going to ask you the question: Have we got to go for the win, or would you kind of be happy with just taking a point? Because going into it, I think it's one where we can afford to draw, but we can't afford to lose. I feel when you're looking at it from that point of view. But how are you kind of feeling going into it on Wednesday? I said favourites for the probably one of the first times going into it, but
I think I don't know. It's with Arsenal are a funny side because I think some of their most important players are their 2 centre backs, is Williamson and Raffaelli. I think if they've not got one of those or both of those, you have to fancy your chances because the players that are replacing them are not up to the same standard at all. So they still have those players. It's hard not to get carried away with the injuries that they've got. So obviously Little being out, Mead, Miedemar, perhaps 1 or 2 others, McCabe getting that hilarious yellow card as she did, mental. But they've got Frida Manum, they've got Palova, they've got, is it Kuhl? Is that how you say it? Kuhl? Can't remember. Kuhl, German player, who's also brilliant. They've got so much strength in depth. But then so have we. And it's going to be not far off a full house. And I think LSV can be quite a scary place to come to when it's full and when it's noisy. I think that will have a part to play. I feel like we have to go for the win. I think with places where we can exploit them, obviously there are places where they can exploit us as well. Because I feel like if we win this game, we're massively in the driving seat. I think we have to go for it. We have to fight for every ball. We have to chase everything. Because remember, we've got over a week off them until we play our next game. We've got a long time. Lots of people talking about them having these injuries and then having one eye on Wolfsburg, who have absolutely turned Bayern over, I think, at the weekend. I don't know. We can. I absolutely think we can, because we beat them in their own backyard at a packed out Emirates when they didn't have these injuries. So I think we can. I don't know. I feel like it's going to be one of those games where we'll kind of know within the first 10 or 15 minutes how it's going to go. That's how I always feel like when we play these games. But I'm just too emotional about it now. I want it so much for them that if they win this, we're in the driving seat, because Arsenal then still have to play Chelsea. And can you imagine what would happen if Chelsea didn't win that game? And then you potentially go into the last. All I keep thinking is, if you go into the last game of the season and we need to win, and we win it, imagine that. Imagine Liverpool potentially at Anfield. Oh my! I can't even cope just thinking about it. But yes, we should compete. We need to go for it 100%. Like Eric Ten Hag says, it should be. We should be winning everything. We're Manchester United. We should be trying to win everything, not just settling for one thing. Or being an also ran. We have to go for it.
I mean, Chess, how are you kind of feeling going into it? As Gabriella said there, they were very good versus Bayern, who were a very good team.
Yeah.
They were obviously beat City as well. They looked very good in that game. Marnham's been mentioned. How many goals is she on, by the way? Like 15 goals in midfield.
She's playing it excellently, and I also think their performance against I don't want to give Arsenal too much credit, but and also Man City, I don't want to give them too much credit either, because we do have to play them, and for also obvious reasons. But Man City are in excellent form right now, and Arsenal were able to beat them by just kind of pulling it out of the bag. They had 2 excellent goals in that game, when it was looking like City were very, very dominant, like a very dominant side. I see we've had a comment in here from Erling saying about Marnham. Yeah, she's been absolutely excellent for both club and country, and I think we talk about Arsenal's injuries, but she has a real like personal excellence that she can pull out of the bag herself, and so I think that's definitely a player that we should be worried about and we should be aware on. I think just keeping switched on, not allowing those moments to switch off. And being like having conviction when you're shooting in front of goal, hopefully we'll come away with the win.
Concentrate is the word.
Yep, concentrate.
Yeah, a few people have mentioned that, talking about the kind of defense. Yeah, Marnham's definitely one of the. I'm looking. She scored 2 against Sweden, scored against City, scored against Bayern, scored against Spurs. These aren't bad. Spurs aside, but you're talking about. Top level teams here.
She's phenomenal, but I that sort of Arsenal fans potentially will be looking at our lineup and saying, "Oh, there's this player, there's this player, there's this player." And Katie and Hayley did an absolute job on their midfield at the Emirates, an absolute job. So we've got it in us. We've got it in us now. We've taken points against these teams, Arsenal more than most. But it's massive. There's no point in playing it down. It's huge. It's huge to win that game.
I want to ask you, obviously, I'll ask you that same question as well, but also following on from that, do you think Saturday's result will have a positive impact, or do you think that it might have taken a bit too much out of the players? Obviously, the emotion around, obviously, it's great that we went on to win, but it would have been an emotionally draining game because of how, obviously, the game went and everything else. Do you see it as a positive going into this one, or are you a little bit concerned that it might have taken
I'd have said it was a lot worse if you put that level of effort in and you don't win and you don't get to Wembley and don't get your day out in the sun. So, no, believe me, players live for these sorts of matches and these sort of results. And listen, if you want to be a big club, we heard what Charlie was just saying there about how we're Man United and we should be trying to win everything. Well, yeah, when you're the men's team, you can do that because you had Sir Alex Ferguson and he absolutely smashed everybody to smithereens. We haven't done that in the women's game. It's not us. So should we be trying to win everything? Of course we should. We want to. But to do that, you've got to get the experience. And to get the experience, you've got to get through these levels of seasons where you are going to be playing more games, just like next year. Am I expecting us to win the Champions League if we're in it? No, probably not. Not straight away, because you've got to get experience against these teams. And that's part of what the pre-seasons were about earlier on before this season. Was about playing European teams, having the opportunity to try and play against a different approach, different tactics, different formations. This is all part of their plan. I know people don't like hearing it, but Mark Skinner knows what he's doing. Like anyone who's got a brain and eyes can see that he is trying to address the problems that are there. You can dislike him as much as you like. You can say he's not the manager for Manchester United. You can say you'd rather have somebody else in charge. Of course you can. You cannot deny that he is attempting with his backroom team to address all of the problems that we had last season and to progress us and make us move forward. And I think anyone that says otherwise in that respect is just being a bit disingenuous, if I'm being brutally honest, Connor, because I don't know how you can argue that anymore. It's a straw man argument. It doesn't exist. And it's just not acceptable for me any further. But in terms of the game itself, no, I don't think it took too much out of them. For Arsenal, listen, it's huge. You can't, as Charlie said, put it down at all. It's massive. If we lose that game, then City have got the opportunity to be level on points with us again and level on games. If we lose that game, Arsenal have got a game in hand over us and would already be level in points. But if we win that game, Connor, if we win that game, we could potentially be 6 points clear of Manchester City, but we'd definitely be 3. We'd also definitely be 3 ahead of Arsenal, regardless of their game in hand. Now, you don't need me to tell you, Connor, just how important those 3 points are in a small season like you get in the WSL with just the 12 teams in it. So it's huge. Nobody needs that explaining to them. Manchester United Arsenal is always huge. They're going to want absolute revenge. They're not going to like the fact that we went to their big ground, which they feel like they're so good at, the one that they've been playing all their European games in, and turned them over, knocked them off their perch. They didn't like it, and they won't like it, and they're going to want to get a level of revenge. We need to now know what it's like to have that target on our back. So it's going to be huge, absolutely massive. And I'll tell you what, this is what we live for, Connor. Isn't it? You don't want to be one of these other teams like Aston Villa with nothing to play for, who are just turning up just for the sake of it. We've got real drama, real jeopardy, and we need to win it because Mark Skinner, if we don't, we're not going to win the league. And I said that at the beginning of the season, and this is what you've been playing. So this is what you've got to do: win the game, and we will.
Yeah,
Rachel Williams hat trick and a Sophie Dagan fourth because she's going in up front. Remember?
I mean, yeah, you definitely. I mean, Sarah's putting about from an Arsenal perspective. But look, obviously, I mentioned last Friday. There's a full preview going out tomorrow with an Arsenal fan, Tim Stillman. That'll be out tomorrow, which you can watch. Obviously, I'm recording that in about 10 minutes, so hence why I've got to shoot off in a minute.
Better be doing better with that one than you did against Rob. Stand up just a bit more, because if I see more Arsenal fans in that team, there's going to be hell to pay. You and I are going to be fighting on screen.
I'll ask him this question as well, because again, they're playing Wolfsburg battered Bayern as well last weekend. Alina, sorry if you're watching this, by the way. I don't think you wanted reminding of that, but there we are. Sorry about that one. Obviously, yes, so they've obviously got Wolfsburg to contend with as well. Is there any? Someone's just mentioned nerves. Mike, that's the question I kind of end up on with this one. Charlie, I'll start with yourself. Do you think the nerves will get to the players? Obviously, first half against Brighton, there was maybe that could have been an element as to why we started maybe a bit slower. Do you think maybe now that could get to the players a little bit now? Because we beat Arsenal away, but at the time of the season, you kind of looking at the table, there's still loads to go. You know, with how many games are we winning? 4 games away, 4 or 5 games away from the end.
There'll be four games after this.
Yeah, so 4 or 5 games away. This is now, you cannot, as Barry just said there, we drop points, we potentially fall out of the top 3 with City still to play. If we win, we are then firmly in top 3 and potential title on the cards as well. Do you think that will play into it a little bit? Because it's the same for Arsenal, really. You know, they've got a lot riding on this as well as us.
You know what? I'm going to give my secondary school teacher a response, because that's what I am, Chess, by the way. It's not make-believe. Say to the students who say, oh, I'm nervous. Like, on an exam and I'm nervous. Nerves is normal. Just means something's important and something matters. So a bit of nerves is fine. That's what makes you work really hard. That's what makes you try your best and show the best of yourself. So a little bit of nerves is absolutely fine. And you just know that those players with that coaching staff and with that manager, they'll be being protected and they'll be being looked after. And I believe him, Mark, when he says it's just another game. That's what Rachel said. We just have to prepare for Arsenal now. Semi-final's done. We just prepare for Arsenal. I think we can see massive progress in the mentality. I think it was well before the 5th to last game last year that we started to capitulate. We're well in it, and we have the players on the pitch who start, who can win us games, and we have players that can come off the bench. And I think that makes a massive difference. So, yeah, I'm sure they will be nervous. They might be nervous every time they go on the pitch, but a bit of nerves is fine. I will be unbearable. Whoever is stood next to me, I'll be unbearable. It might be my son, actually. Yes. So I'll be unbearable for William. You've just got to hope that they channel that in the right way.
I mean, Chess, sticking with that, do you think that plays into it? Or, like I said before, Arsenal have got similar nerves because they can't really afford to lose this either.
I'm sure Arsenal will feel the same going into this fixture. Maybe they've got a little bit more. Maybe that behind the scenes, or their fans may think, we've got this in the bag because it's just Manchester United. We can put them to bed. But the thing that always sticks out to me when I think about this this sort of thing, a mentality, is I spoke to Katie Zellum after the win at Arsenal, and I said, "How does it feel, and what's changed?" And she said, we have belief now. We have belief. And she was like, and that's it. We believe that we can do it. We can believe when we go behind that that's not it, that we're not going to be kind of walked over. We believe that we can win. And I think that's the key. That's the key. And hopefully as long as they just keep believing, it's like Ted Lasso says, get the sheet above the door, believe. I know it's cringy, but hopefully they'll be able to see it one out.
The word I've used, Connor, isn't nerves, it's pressure. And that's what people are feeling now. That semi-final was pressure. Going 1-0 down was pressure. And it's how you react to that pressure. The reason why Chelsea are as good as they are is because they react well to it every single time. When it looks like they're down and out, they come back fighting. It's belief, it's nerves, but it's pressure. Pressure that does that. And I just want to clarify something. I did not say we'd fall out of the top four. If we lose, Man City will be level on points with us, but they are still 18 goals behind us on goal difference. And I refuse to believe that we are going to lose 18-0 to Arsenal. Just can't see that occurring. So I don't think we'll drop out of the top four if we don't beat Arsenal. But it will be down to goal difference at that point, which will be somewhat tricky and not something that I really want to contemplate right now.
No, 100%. There's obviously a lot of talk about injuries and that kind of thing. Like I said, I will ask Tim, if any of you follow him, Tim Stillman, he will know the answers to all these questions about all the injuries and things like that. Because as Sarah said, Arsenal are being a bit cryptic with their injuries. I'd heard that Ford was out. She's potentially now fit all of a sudden. Don't know how that's happened. There's a lot. I'll ask him, and you'll find out tomorrow when that show goes out. Right, I'll come to each of you then with your score predictions before we wrap this one up. Charlie, what were you saying on Wednesday?
2-1 win. 2-1 win.
Chess?
I'm gonna go 2-0 United.
Barry doesn't look happy, but
Oh, the stress. Look at that.
Because I try to make sure that the prediction that I give live on here is the one that I actually write in the predictions league. So I'm just, putting that effort in now. I'm torn, head of my heart. My head is saying that we are going to win it and it's going to be tight. My heart is saying that they're going to make a statement. I'm going to go 3-1.
Do you feel there's a few people agreeing with you there? 3-1? Yeah, 2-1 for me. I think Arsenal will score because I don't think... Yeah, look, judging by Saturday, our backline's not been great. So we'll see. But yeah, 2-1 I think for myself as well. As Barry just mentioned there, if you are in the predictions league, obviously tomorrow night is Wednesday, kind of midday-ish is the cut-off with 2 games obviously on Wednesday, so make sure you get those in. Charlie, I'm looking at you and I'm looking at a couple of people in the comments that are in it as well to get those across because we'll probably...
You're looking at yourself?
I've also not done it, so I need to fill mine in as well. We'll look to wrap it up there then. Chess, is there anything you want to shout out while you're here? Obviously, I know you've got the women's football podcast as well.
Women's football podcast. Follow me on Twitter. I in my header I say all opinions my own, but only the good ones. Take with that what you will. Just talk about women's football, and none of it's particularly serious, and that's good because this stuff is fun, and we should treat it that way. But yeah.
Exactly. 100% agree with that one. Obviously, with no show on Wednesday, because obviously we're playing Arsenal, so we'll be back tomorrow. Obviously, the show that is being pre-recorded for tomorrow, we're doing similar to what we did with the Chelsea one, so it'll be a confined 11 / previewy show. As Barry said, I'm hoping to get more United players in this combined 11 And especially if we're doing it off players who are fit, there shouldn't be that many Arsenal that make it. There we are. Yeah, agree with that comment, Chess. Oh, you've been fantastic as
you,
always.
Mike.
So thank you, obviously, for coming on. Obviously, we'll have our match reaction on Thursday for Arsenal. Just move it around slightly, so make sure you come up for that one. Make sure you like and subscribe and all of that jazz. And we shall see you guys in the next one.